Imagine she was only 20 years old when she decided to end a relationship with her high school sweetheart. Not long after that, during what was supposed to be a simple walk around the neighborhood, she ended up being left for dead in the middle of the street.
So, story time part one. I survived a murder attempt. This is the story of me being stabbed 6 times by my ex. Now, wait, because that's a lot. Let's take a deep breath. Um, that's a lot. So, anytime I share this story, it's always first and foremost for advocacy and educational purposes, because it is domestic violence. It was domestic violence, and I know that's a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. And I always, just want to spread awareness. I have done that, speaking on panels, news specials, big spaces, small spaces. But I don't know, I just wanted to continue to do that and do it in a relatable way, by sharing this story. So, this took place in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, where I'm originally from, and this happened in 2015. So, my then boyfriend, we were like high school sweethearts, on again, off again. I was 20 years old when this took place, for context, because I was young at that time. I thought I had it all figured out, thought I knew me a little something, but I only had the experience that I had at the time, which was that of that 20 years. So I was a student at the world famed Grambling State University. I lived there, had an apartment, me and my then best friend. Life was great. This boyfriend at the time of mine, he had a bit of a troubled past, to say the least. Um, I was aware of it, thought that I could be some type of superwoman healer and fixed him, but that did not happen ultimately. So I was living there in my apartment and resting, going to school, doing what I was doing, living my life. He came to live with me, and it's so crazy because I feel like it's another reason I was compelled to share right now. It was like around this time, like today, like this is the actual date that we you know, got back together. Well, not got back together, we were together, but this is when he came and started living with me. So we were in each other's physical, space. So I very quickly realized, it was a matter of weeks, within him coming to live with me, something wasn't right, but was very much in love, thought, this was the person that I was gonna spend the rest of my life with. And so I was trying to find ways to work it out, see what we could do, but it just wasn't working. And so we came home that weekend, because like I said, I was in school, but I used to travel home on the weekends. We came home that weekend, and I, kind of just broke the news to him, I don't think this is working out. I need some space. When I go back to school, you gonna stay here. So he of course was upset, but this wasn't your traditional domestic violence situation, so where this person there had been a history of violence. He used to hit me, beat me. That wasn't our thing. If anything, it was more so emotional abuse and manipulation and stuff like that. And so he was obviously upset about it, but he really was trying to make me feel bad, so to speak. You really gonna do me like that? Where am I gonna go? Putting all this responsibility on me. Mind you, I'm a 20-year-old young woman. And I was conflicted because I did still love this person, wanted the relationship to work, but at the same time I knew that it wasn't working. Never in a million years did I think this was going to happen the way that it happened. call it naive, call it just like not really being aware. And like I said, I was young, I was in love. So I can remember one of my friends was over at the time, another one of my best friends at that time. I called her over kind of like as a buffer, like, and because she and him were close, whatever. So I just remember this eerie feeling, and we all have heard of like a woman's intuition. Girl, listen, trust it. I just felt like eerie about it all. Like, it was like something just like clicked in him, and it made me kind of like but again, I wasn't thinking like violence, I wasn't thinking of it going that far, but to my surprise it did. So I remember us being in my parents' room. I had already broken up with him, kind of let him know like, hey, it's not working. I remember I had written him a letter, and I was like, I'm leaving you. And then we talked about it in person. And we were in my parents' room, and it was just like this hostile like type of situation. Like the energy, everything that was coming off him was like, and I remember him telling me like, you better talk to me like a man. Like, stop talking like I'm your child. Like, talk to me like I'm a man. And I'm like, well, you need to act like a man. So, right when things started getting like a little bit more intense, the garage came up. We were in my parents' room, and their bedroom was like right there by the garage, and it was my dad coming home, and so it like stopped everything. So because I'm like kind of stuck like this, he's over there, like I said, it was very intense. But that garage came up, my daddy was coming home, so we left out of their room, went back down the hall. So at some point my friend ended up leaving. Like, she went to go do something really quick, kind of like trying to give us a little bit of time and space to talk, whatever. And he went outside. I ended up going outside too, and he was like, let's take a walk, like, go with me for a walk real quick so we can talk. That wasn't out of the norm, but I remember it was late. But I'm like, okay, cool, like, let's go ahead and like talk about this, try to end things off on, like a good note, because in my mind I'm thinking like, okay, you know how we are, like us girls, like, I'm gonna break up with him, that's gonna make him get it together type of situation, or like, let's give each other a little space, a little cool off period. I'm kind of just trying to like wake him up, not really thinking, so we go on that walk. Story time part 2. I survived an attempted murder. I was stabbed 6 times by my ex. So we go for that walk, and everything seems pretty normal. We're talking about the relationship, why things aren't working. He's kind of like pleading his case of, just different reasons like why he didn't want the relationship to end. I'm doing pretty good, holding my ground. I'm being gentle and listening, because this is still somebody that I care about at this time. I'm listening, hearing him out, but I knew like, okay, I gotta, we can't go on like this. So we're walking like around my neighborhood, a walk that we have taken plenty of times before. Typically in daylight, and like I said, at this point in time it's really late. It's like right before midnight or so. So we're like making our way around. It's basically like, it'll be like a little loop that we would go around. And I remember at a certain point on the walk, he wanted to go off like on this side street, and that was really weird because it was like pitch black, no street lights. It was just weird. Like, why would we go down there? So I kind of started to, again, woman's intuition, I started to feel more eerie, more like cautious, suspicious. And so I remember it's raining. It's raining. I remember putting like a little bit of distance in between us, but he's still talking. I'm not really talking, like engaging in a conversation at this point in time. I'm listening and just like paying attention to my surroundings and things, but I still never thought anything like violent, so to speak. Or maybe I did, and I was like blocking myself. Again, this is little baby 20-year-old me at the time. So we're walking, and I've just declined the whole like turning down this side street thing. So we keep on going forward. And I remember him saying, like, I was like looking for reasons, like building cases on him, basically. Like, I was looking for reasons to not be with him anymore. He's like, you know, how you gonna abandon me? You know, it's just not right. Really like try to guilt trip me. And it's kind of working, it's kind of not. So I don't know how to explain it other than just feeling like, you know how you like looking at somebody, you're talking to somebody, and you can kind of like see that they're not really all there. Like, he's just like, I just felt this disassociation. And I remember being like, so now we're walking up, and it's getting to the point to like, once we hit this corner, we're gonna be like back on my street, because it's like basically a whole little like circle that we've done. So okay, so part 3, I survived an attempted murder. I was stabbed 6 times by my ex. So going back, I had to move, y'all. It's a bunch of beeping. I don't know, my refrigerator, it was a power outage, and now it's like beeping saying power outage, even though the power is back on. I don't know. And then come up here, and of course we have the smoke detector, like. But so going back before we keep on that walk, context again. So I was 20 years old at this time when my then boyfriend and he had just recently like came and moved in with me when I was in college. And I decided that the relationship just wasn't quite working out. Came home for the weekend, didn't really know at the time what it was, but basically I was like safety planning. If you know anything about domestic violence, like awareness, advocacy, that's one of like the steps when a woman is trying to get out of the relationship. Like I said, y'all, mind you, I was 20 years old. So while at 20 I was very mature, like you couldn't tell me I wasn't grown. I was living, you know, by my like off by myself, me and my best friend. I'm in college, I'm like moving and grooving, I'm doing my own thing. I had lived a lot of life at 20. I had lost my mom. I was very like mature. I took on a lot of responsibility for like my 2 younger siblings. But I was only as old as I was. Like 20 was as old as I was at that time. So there's only so much life experience that you're gonna have as a 20-year-old. You know what I'm saying? But at the time, like I felt like I was grown. I knew what I was doing. I was, you know, educated. I came from a 2-parent household, came from, you know, like I had never been around domestic violence. I wasn't like high risk, so to speak, for domestic violence. And that just speaks to the fact and like the stigmas on domestic violence, that it can happen to anybody, any age, any race, any socioeconomic class. Like now, on the other side of this, like I said, in my work in advocacy and education, I have met doctors, lawyers, prosecutors, you know, men, women, young, old, police officers, young, old, who have all like been victims of domestic violence or who are now survivors of domestic violence. And I have heard stories of women who unfortunately did not survive, stories and situations like my own, some even less. So I also want to note that it is nothing short of a miracle that I'm even here to tell this story. And I don't take that lightly. Like, this isn't just, you know, ooh, cute fun. Like, I feel like this is a part of the reason that I was left here, that God left me here, capital G, like left me here. And I didn't realize that at the time. So that's gonna like unfold not just what happened to me, but my journey after, my journey in being a survivor, you know, because it is still quite a journey here 10 years later. Like I said, this is something like, it's not like day one, but I mean, this is still at the forefront of my mind. It doesn't even say 10 years sounds crazy. Like, you hear 10 years, you think of like something so far and so long ago. Something this big and this traumatic is still like at the forefront of my mind. And I said, thank God for healing, for time, for grace, for mercy, all those things, because I literally do not know where I would be if it wasn't for that. Like, this situation could have not only killed me, like ended my life, it did change my life for the rest of my life. So I just want to add that as well. And I always gotta say, you know, if you or anyone you know is suffering, is in a situation, if any of these things that I'm telling you sound familiar, like do not hesitate to like reach out to me, your support system, people in your community. There are always going to be like resources available. I knew nothing about domestic violence prior to this happening to me. Had I been aware of the different dynamics, like the power and control, emotional abuse, like back in that time, like people weren't talking about things like this so much. We didn't have like platforms and stuff where people were sharing stories, or some stuff was just still considered taboo, or it just, if it wasn't happening to you, wasn't going on in your life, you didn't really care, you didn't think too much about it. Mind you, I'm a college student, I'm living my life, I'm having fun. I had no idea what to even look for in terms of domestic violence. For me, that was like black and white fights, somebody hitting you, something like that, something that was more obvious. Whereas for me, I feel like it was like a slow burn leading up to it of a lot of different, like I said, like emotional abuse, manipulation. There were threats, things that he said, but I didn't take them seriously. And so if this video touches even one person, it makes you like think about your situation, look at something that can potentially help you, save you, help heal you, whatever it may be, then I know that, all this was for a reason. And I have over the years, like I said, told this story so many times, spoken on panels, been invited to share in big rooms with lots of people. And I was on the FBI task force. I received an award in my hometown for like Civilian of the Year for my advocacy and things like that. But none of that really matches like the weight of just my one-on-one interactions with other women. I mean, men too, to be honest, who have gone through something similar, and just realizing that one, I'm not alone in it, and also my story, my journey, giving them hope that it doesn't have to end there for them either. As you can see, I'm alive, I'm well. God has been good to me, but it has been so hard. Like, so hard. I can't even begin to explain. Maybe I'll get into a little bit of that in this story time, or maybe that can be like a separate thing, like, you know, talking about like the journey of surviving and, having lived through something so traumatic. Like, maybe that could be its own thing. You guys let me know how y'all feel about that. But back to the story, jumping right back in. So we're on this walk, right? And we're getting up to the point to where I've declined that first little like detour. I was like, that was weird. At that point, I remember like putting distance between me and him. Like, I don't know. It was like I said, that intuition was like, but I didn't think that he would hurt me. But it was just something that was like, okay. Um, so now we're getting up to the point to where, like I said, if you turn, it's like a little side strip, like a rectangle, so to speak, not a circle, but it's like we're here, then there'll be like a side part, and then this street is like going back down towards my house. So, I just felt him like become a little antsy. And mind you, we're talking, y'all, excuse the smoke detector, how cliche, but anyway, we're talking, and I just feel him getting antsy. It's a heavy topic, but it was still kind of like, So, I remember saying, I said his name. I was like, what's wrong with you? And in that same breath, he turned around. He says, nothing. I love you. He stabbed me.
It was probably a little scary that she couldn't explain or rationalize within herself exactly why she felt uncomfortable. But that's why it's important to trust yourself. And I know she was only 20, but her instincts were already trying to protect her before she even knew she was in danger.
I do want to put a trigger warning here just because this is the part of the story when everything really starts happening. But also, I see the comments. Let me just say this, y'all. We need to have, as a people, sisters, friends, we need to have a little bit less audacity and a little bit more consideration. When y'all see people on here doing these story times, 9 times out of 10, they are sharing something traumatic, something big, and although I'm choosing to share this, people are choosing to share this because it's not just about me. I really want us to learn to have some decorum, okay? Because it's like, okay, you're telling me the worst thing that ever happened to me. Hurry up, get there. Like, come on, y'all. Like, just relax. And as I said, and I will say it again, context matters. This is not just for entertainment. For one, I'm trying to educate, I'm trying to spread awareness, and I'm also advocating for other victims of domestic violence with this. So relax. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. So we are at that part of the walk to where the last thing that this man ever said directly to me, um, I remember asking him, I said, Adam, what's wrong with you? And I did that because, like I said, that energy, I felt that there had been like a shift, like something had, come over him. He says, nothing. I love you. And in that same breath, he stabbed me twice in my stomach. So, um, if y'all have ever like been in a car wreck or anything, you know that feeling to where everything slows down for you, but it's actually happening it's happening really fast. And so that's how it was. I'm standing there, he's standing there right in front of me, and we were both just like still. And I remember like putting my hand on my stomach, and I was like, I screamed, of course, and I was like, Adam, it's me. It's me. How could you do this to me? And when I started talking, when I like after I screamed and I started talking, that's when he just went into like full attack mode. So I turned to run. I don't have a weapon or anything, of course. Like, I'm defenseless. He's bigger than me, stronger than me, faster than me, and he has a knife. So um and while this is happening, I don't necessarily like feel each wound. I learned after the fact like how many times I was stabbed, but I felt those first two because I kind of like I saw it as it was happening. I don't even remember like where he pulled the knife from. I didn't even see it. I just that quick motion and then me feeling the pain. And so I turned to run. Where we're at was we're like on that, because we in that rectangle. So we on that side part to where it's like two backyards facing each other. It's dark. It's late. It's like midnight at this point. Nobody's outside, of course. So we're like in this struggle. I'm trying to get away, and I turned to run, but of course he like catches up to me, and I can remember him going for my face. And it was something about that, like when I saw him like coming towards, like directly towards me with that knife, it clicked to my mind like, this man is trying to kill me. Like he's trying to kill me. And so I started to fall at that point, but when he went for my face, I put my arm up, and so I have a wound here on my arm, like a defensive wound. So I put my arm up to block him, and then I'm like falling, and it's like he's kind of like cradling me, like almost as if he's like laying me down on the ground. And so whew, that's a lot. So he's down on the ground with me, but he's like over me because I'm like laying down now, and he's like kneeling. And so I was just begging. I was like, please, please, just stop, just go, like just go. And he's like still holding me, and I don't see it, but I could hear it. The last wound was to my head. He stabbed me in my head, and it was like going underwater, like the way, like instantly, like I said, I couldn't necessarily feel it, but I heard it, and it was like I went underwater. So I just closed my eyes at that point, and I realized, well, kind of a little bit before the stab wound to the head, when he went for my face, I realized I need to play dead. As long as I'm moving, as long as I'm running, as long as I'm fighting back, like he's gonna keep on going, and he's this, I'm I have the disadvantage at this point. So I'm laying there, eyes closed, and He gets up and it was so sinister. It was so sinister. He literally like stands there for a second to make sure that I'm dead, that I don't move. So I'm like pretending to be dead, just laying there still, quiet as can be. And he runs away. And he goes back in the direction that we were going. So that's back towards my house. So I'm laying there for a second, and as much as I was pretending, I I felt like there's no way that I'm gonna make it through this. You know, I knew that I was severely hurt. I didn't know how hurt again. I didn't know how many times, but I knew like, okay, and I'm laying there, y'all, and I'm like, the thoughts are just running through my head. I'm like, dang, like somebody gonna find me in the morning. Like this is it. This is how my life ends. And you hear people talk about experiences like that, like an out of body experience. It was crazy, but well, not crazy. It was amazing. I saw my mom. Um, she had passed 2 years before then, and I heard her voice so loud and so clear in my head, and she was like, "Get up, get up. They can't take losing you." And them as in my family, because like I said, we were still dealing with that. So up to this point in the story, um, everything has pretty much taken place. He stabbed me and multiple times, and he ran away after I pretended that I was dead. He went back in the direction of my house, and from that point, I knew that I had to get up to try to get to help if I was gonna make it. So I began walking back in the direction that we came from because he went forward to back towards my house, and that was one of the driving reasons that I got up. I thought about my family, clicked in my head like my dad is at home, my sister is at home, my best friend was back at the house, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, if he was going back to stay, if he had some plans on hurting them. So that really compelled me to get up, and I did. So at this point, again, I don't know how hurt I am. I just know that I'm hurt. My adrenaline has kicked in. It's like fight or flight mode. And oh, and real quick, before we start, let's not act like we have never heard noise in the background. This is real life. That's my refrigerator. I can't go change the batteries. I don't know. So I get up, and I start walking, and I am obviously bleeding. I can only explain it as if I felt like I was drunk. I couldn't necessarily pinpoint the pain of, I'm hurting here, I'm hurting there. I just felt very like dazed, very woozy as I'm, trying to make it to somebody's front door. Where we were, it was two backyards facing each other, so I had to walk a bit of a ways to get to the front of someone's house. And I remember even, speaking to the detectives, we went to court and everything, which I will talk a little bit about that as well. But I had to walk quite a little bit of a distance, especially with all like the injuries that I had. It was nothing short of a miracle. I'm going to keep on reiterating that if we don't get anything else from this story outside of, I know for some people it's just a little bit of entertainment, but this is to, number one, bring glory to God, because it is nothing short of a miracle that I'm here. And secondly, to spread awareness about domestic violence, share my story, and do it in a way that's like, more relaxed and relatable. So I'm walking, y'all. I fall several times, getting back up. I'm stumbling, and I'm just trying to make my way. So I get to the first house that I stop at, and I make it to their front door. And I remember just leaning up against the wall, and it was like, oh, just a breath of fresh air, like relief, because I get to like rest for a second, and leaning up against their door is like helping hold me upright. So I ring the doorbell, I'm knocking, I'm just like, please, please, open the door. Nobody answers. So I take a minute to compose myself, and I head back out. So I go to the next house, which at the time I didn't know the house was vacant. It was like up for sale. But they had a big tree in their yard, and I remember the branches were like hanging down low, and so I was using the branches to like help me walk and to help me make it to the door, to their doorstep. As I get closer to the door, I see a sign that said like for sale. There was something that let me know like nobody's probably gonna be in there. There was no car in the yard or anything, so I head back out towards the street. So at this point, I remember I saw headlights coming up the street. There was a truck coming up the street, and I was like, okay, this is my chance. Like, somebody's gonna see me, I can get some help. So I start walking out towards, the road. And before I can get out there, that truck ends up turning on to like a little circle. And so as I was getting closer to the street though, and before the truck turned, I remember I was like, help, help, hoping that they would hear me. They didn't. So I'm right there at the mailbox and getting closer to the curb, and I'm just like, somebody help me please. And I end up falling one last time right there at the curb, and I could not get up. So I'm laying there for a brief second, and I see the house across the street, directly across from me. The front porch light comes on, and people come running out. So in that moment, I was so relieved. Like, yes, thank God somebody is coming. Somebody, is coming to help me. I'm safe. So a woman comes out. There are like some people kind of hovering, lingering back behind her, but she runs straight to me. She gets down on the ground with me, and, she can see that I'm hurt. That adrenaline is pumping, but it is starting to wear off. So now I'm starting to feel a little bit more of the pain. And outside of that woozy, like slow, drunk feeling that I'm feeling, and I just gotta say it for context, because I know it's gonna be somebody. I wasn't drunk, of course, but that's the way that it felt. That feeling is starting to kind of be overshadowed by like a shortness of breath and like a heightened awareness that like I'm really hurt. I'm hurt. Like I could die right now. So she's on the phone with 911. She's calling out to people, letting them know like, get towels. I never forget. She's like, get towels, get towels. Okay, y'all, my light went out. But so immediate relief washes over me as I see, this woman and the other people come out of the house. And now also like my neighbors and things have started to come out, kind of like the commotion. They can hear her calling for help, her on the phone with 911. She was communicating like with her friends, her family that were in the house with her, asking them to bring the towels and stuff. They start applying pressure to my wounds. I'm so glad that she knew to do that, because I did lose a lot of blood, and had she not intervened in that way, I would have lost a lot more. So she and I are down on the ground. Everybody is kind of like crowded around us. I can hear that she's on the phone with 911. I know that help is coming. But again, things are now kind of starting to shift, and I'm starting to feel the pain kicking in. My adrenaline is slowing down, and I'm just realizing like, okay, I'm still, although I'm relieved, I'm still at a high risk. So as she's on the phone with 911, I will never forget, she and I are talking, and she's relaying everything that I'm saying back to the 911 dispatcher. So I'm answering questions the best way that I could. She's asking me, what's your name? I tell her my name. She's asking where I live. I name off my street. And I just start to, I could feel that I wasn't all there. Like I felt like I was kind of fading, and I just start saying his name over and over again. I say, Adam, Adam. And she's like, who is that? Do you want me to call him? Is that like, who is he? Do you want him? And I was like, no, he did this. And she said, he did this to you? And she repeats it back to the dispatcher. And I start to say, I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I kept saying it because I felt like I said, my breath is getting shorter and shorter. And she's like, no, don't say that, and she's talking to me, kind of trying to keep me, keep me conscious. She's asking me questions like, how old are you? And, who lives at home? It was my parents' house. She was like, do you have any siblings? I could tell that she's just trying to keep me talking. And she like leans back away from them and she tells the dispatcher, she was like, y'all have to get here now. She's like, she's not, she's not doing good. Y'all have to get here now. And as we're there waiting, they're kind of trying to keep her talking to, and she stays so calm. And again, y'all might get tired of me, but that's the reason that I'm even here to share this. Nothing but grace, because she was so calm, so cool, and so collected to be in such like a high intense situation. That was the hand of God, like truly covering us.
If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, help is available 24/7 using the information on the screen. And of course, if you are
If
in
you or
immediate
someone you know
danger,
is experiencing
please call
domestic
911.
violence,
Even
help
if you
is
can't say
available
anything, and just let the
24/7
phone sit
using the
there. Talk
information
to y'all later in the
on the screen.
comments. And of course, if you are in immediate danger, please call 911.